I wanted to document this portion of my health journey to look back on and see, what comes of it and what I learn and all of that. And I wanted to talk about dermal calcifications, mammograms, and EDS because I am curious if there is a connection between them. And I haven't seen or come across women sharing this aspect of their health and having um, EDS, and I just thought that I would share mine in case maybe it can be helpful to somebody else and another woman who might be experiencing this and that has these conditions. So, about 6 or 7 years ago, I had a issue where I noticed that I was starting to develop or have a lump in my left breast. And it was the size of a pea. It felt like a pea. It looked like a pea. You could see it under my skin. And I was somewhat nervous about it. My grandma from my paternal side of the family had breast cancer later on in her life. And it did, cause me a little bit of concern, but I often was in this space where I wasn't really in tune with my body. I was kind of disconnected, dissociated, and I would often not really pay attention to it in the way that I probably should have. And so I put off having it looked at until I went for my annual um, checkup with like the OBGYN and all of that. So when I went for that checkup, I had I had been seeing a midwife and she did the breast exam portion, and I had mentioned to her that I noticed this pea-sized lump. And when she was doing the exam, she said she definitely saw it and felt it, and that she thought that I needed to have a mammogram and a breast ultrasound just to make sure that it wasn't anything serious. So I went for that mammogram, and that whole experience, what I can remember from it is that it was really uncomfortable. I would say it was more uncomfortable than painful, but I was really surprised just how flat that machine squishes your boob because I didn't think that it went quite that extreme, but it does. So, um, just really uncomfortable. And then after the mammogram, I had the ultrasound to look at the little pea-sized lump. And what I ended up learning from that was that it was just a benign cyst. But in the overall description of the findings from my mammogram, it said that I had dense breasts, which meant that I was at a higher risk for breast cancer because it can be harder to detect with dense breast tissue. That's what I gathered from it. Um, and then I also was told that I had calcifications and dermal calcifications. So that really wasn't explained to me what it was or anything like that. So I had to kind of research it on my own. And I discovered that dermal calcifications is often linked to connective tissue disorders, which I have. So I will post a picture right here, not of my feet, but of somebody else's feet who has EDS as well. And that is something that is common for people who have EDS. That's a common presentation, I guess. And for me, I have that. I have a daughter who has EDS who also has this presentation as well, where when we stand, there are little fat ball nodules kind of in the heels and soles of our feet. And that has to do something with the collagen and the connective tissue just not working properly. And, there's those little fat balls that kind of protrude and all of that. So um, that is something that I think when I was being assessed for EDS, that is one of the things that they looked for. They had me stand up and they looked at my feet and checked them for that. And then I will insert a picture here of my arm, so a personal picture of my own arm. And this is an issue that just started to happen for me, I would say, over the last maybe 4 or 5 years, and becoming increasingly worse, I guess. Um, and how it was explained to me is that we have valves in our veins, and when the blood flows through your veins, they are supposed to close off at a certain point to push the blood back up where it needs to go. And I think it is connected to both my dysautonomia and my EDS, because with the POTS issues of the blood pooling in like my lower extremities of my feet and my legs, I think it also happens in my arms as well, where the circulation is just really poor and cannot circulate back up how it needs to. And I think that what ultimately is causing that is the connective tissues just being too relaxed and not being able to have enough structure to them to really, you know, push everything where it needs to go. So I have ended up noticing that I have a lot of nodules in my veins, in my hands, in my fingers, in my toes, in my feet, even in my hips sometimes, which is really weird. At first, it was kind of alarming, and when I noticed that I was scared, what was going on. But um, it helps to wear, I think, like compression leggings and compression socks to help circulate everything. But it's kind of hard in your arms because, as far as I know, there really isn't like a compression arm thing that you can wear. Um, but I often have, like, even right now, right here on the side of my neck, like right by my ear, it seems like it's a lymph node, but it doesn't hurt. But it is a little nodule there. And I often will have those come out around my neck and my ears. Um, and so I think it just has to do with the connective tissues. When I went for my appointment yesterday for my annual um, checkup, a part of that appointment was also doing a breast exam as usual. I have not ever been good at being confident in doing one myself. I know that there are videos you can watch, and there's like information and sheets of paper that you can get that illustrate, how to give yourself a breast exam properly and what to look for. But I always feel like I'm going to miss something, like I'm not going to, know exactly what I'm looking for. So I pretty much rely on going to my yearly appointments to have them do it, because they know what they're looking for, and they, can better, I guess, detect things than I can. So, um, yesterday when I had gone, well, I guess I should kind of backtrack. So about a couple of months ago, despite the fact that I don't really do them myself or anything like that, for some reason I just had this feeling that maybe I should start. I'm getting a little bit older, and I thought, maybe I should learn how to, or try to figure out how to do this myself so that I can make sure everything is okay. And a couple of months ago, I attempted to try to do that, and I noticed that I did have a lump in my left breast. That wasn't the one that I initially noticed years ago and had the mammogram for. So it was a different spot, a different location. But I thought to myself that maybe it was something hormonal related, and something to do with my menstrual cycle, and it would resolve. Or maybe I was overthinking it. And since I had a mammogram years ago, I just thought, if it was something, they probably would have noticed and saw something and said something to me pretty much. So at the appointment that I had yesterday, when she was doing the exam, she had asked me about the pea-sized lump that I noticed years ago that I had the mammogram for. And I showed her where it was, and I could tell by the expression on her face that something was not quite right, like something was kind of off. And she said, I don't want to scare you, but you have another one that is bigger and it is a little bit further up from that one. And I think that it's a good idea to get another mammogram and to just check to see, if it is a lymph node or what is going on, and another breast ultrasound as well. So I don't know if I mentioned this earlier in the video or not, but my grandma from my paternal side of my family was diagnosed with breast cancer later on in life. So that is always something that, I think about when these kinds of issues seem to be coming up. I'm not as nervous about it as I was the first time, because I feel like now that I've researched some of these things that, I was told with the dermal calcifications, and just knowing that I have nodules and, my veins and my collagen is just really wonky. Um, I feel as though that is probably most likely going to be what it is, and what they find is just some benign issue with the collagen and everything, and that is what is causing this lump. But I thought that I would just talk about it, share, my experience with it and what going through it is like for me, and maybe it can be helpful information at some point for somebody else. And I will share the results of the mammogram after I have it done. They wanted me to go in for it yesterday, but I couldn't yesterday. So I scheduled it for a few weeks out. So in a few weeks, I will go and have that done, and then I will share, what they find and all of that. But um, I think that it is also, I also wanted to make this just as a reminder, if you do feel something that is kind of off or you think is not right, I think that, it's a good idea to just pay attention to your body and to trust your intuition and your instincts, and to have whatever it is checked out or looked at. It kind of, I think I tried to like talk myself out of it in a way where I almost was thinking, it was just kind of something I was imagining and it wasn't actually there. But when she had said that she noticed that there was a lump, then all of a sudden I realized that a couple months ago, when I felt that it actually was there. So I just wanted to, share this, and maybe it can be a reminder for other women as well to pay attention to your body and to take it seriously and to take good care of yourself. And that is it for this one.